Hi there, Rod Fleming again here. Sorry, there's a bunch of negatives here. I'm a photographer in my other life. I want to talk today about defunding. Defunding, really not a word that I ever really liked or wanted to use. It has become increasingly tasty and flavoursome in the last year or so. And I'm going to explain why. I mean, everybody knows now that we have a major problem in higher education across the West, but particularly in the Anglo-Saxon cultures. I mean, we have a serious, grave issue in higher education, such that we're coming to a point now where higher education, that is, college and university level, particularly university level, and I'm really particularly talking about undergraduate level, and especially in what are called the humanities and the arts, is no longer fit for purpose. It just isn't. And we have a moral question that we have to answer, which is this, that we're all taxpayers. I had my university days, and yes, taxpayers of that era were paying for that university. And my taxes now pay for other universities. But there's a corollary, and that is, surely we should be getting value for money. Now, the government takes tax money from us and redistributes it. And there is a principle of accountability, such that if the government is doing things with our tax receipts that we don't like, we should be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't think you should do that, and you're going to have to stop. And that's why we have elections. That's one of the reasons we have elections. Unfortunately, governments are incredibly sneaky about things like this, because they don't make public what they're doing. They make cuts in expenditure, but they carry on with expenditure without actually making that something that they ask an opinion of the public about. But the problem within higher education has become so grave, it's the only one I can think of, in the recent few years, that we now have to challenge government. We have to say, no, what are you doing? Students in universities have lost the ability to make arguments. You know, when I went to undergraduate school, you were expected to be able to fight your corner, you know, to argue the toss, to say, well, I don't agree with you. This is what I've done, and I don't agree with your assessment of it. We're not talking about the STEM subject areas here, that's science, technology, engineering, maths, because basically, if you don't work out your Pythagoras right, you're wrong. You know, that's it. That's where you hit the hard wall. Let's not kid ourselves. But in disciplines where there is an element of variability, you know, there's a grayness, there's no precise right, yeah, we can have these debates. But when we say that there's no precise right, it doesn't mean that just anything goes. Sorry, it just doesn't. The result of this, the application of postmodernism to university thinking and university teaching in general, is that students can no longer make arguments, because postmodernism does not allow for arguing. Postmodernism breaks everything down into power politics, basically. Essentially, if a postmodernist engages in an argument with someone who is not a postmodernist, then in postmodernist theory, that person has just conceded defeat. You know, by engaging me in an argument, I win automatically. So what that means is they don't engage in arguments. They will never confront you. They'll say, well, yeah, whatever you think, whatever, and walk away, or get in your face, or start hitting you, or doing something. They won't actually work a logical argument, because if they do that, then their claim is that you're setting the terms of engagement, you're setting the parameters, and therefore everything is set up for you to win, ignoring the fact that that is how human dialogue and human progress has worked since we came out of the savannah, since we came out of the trees and learned to speak. The whole point of being able to learn to speak is to have dialogue, and dialogue is the exchange of ideas. Postmodernism does not allow for that. Postmodernism says, why exchange ideas? Any idea, man. They're all the same. Don't matter. Doesn't matter what you think. You can't be right, you can't be wrong. It's all morally equivalent anyway. It's all relativist. It doesn't matter. So the next thing that comes from that inability to form a coherent argument, is a desire to not hear opposing arguments. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear me. If I say, you know, Jacques Derrida was a bloody idiot. He was a wise guy, a con man. They don't want to hear that. They probably don't even know who Jacques Derrida was, to be honest with you. One of the founders of postmodernism. They don't want to have that. They don't want to hear opposing ideas. That's why they don't want Milo Constantinopoulos, whatever, Yiannopoulos, Milos Yiannopoulos on campus. Not because what he's saying is particularly offensive, but it isn't. He's just a wisecracking gay, you know, he's funny. He's a hilarious guy. But he doesn't agree with them. And they can't have someone who doesn't agree with them in their area, you know, because that disrupts what they call the safe space. Certainly in the humanities and arts departments, that's really what they're there to do. I mean, how can you have criticism of literature if you don't have, you know, criticism and counter-criticism, if you can't exchange ideas? I mean, read Camille Pallier on this, by the way. She's very, very good. It makes a nonsense of the whole university system. So when you have university students saying, well, we want safe spaces. Safe spaces. Safe spaces are ideas suddenly. They're not talking about people coming in with machetes, you know, like would maybe happen in Africa, or with machine guns and kidnapping the women, as would happen in large parts of Africa or the Middle East. They're talking about people coming in and saying things they don't agree with. That constitutes an invasion of their safe space. That constitutes a breach of their right to a safe space. Well, what I'm saying is defunding. What I'm saying is a university that does not challenge this and actually permits that its students should behave in this manner is failing in its duty as a university. Why should my tax money go to fund such a university? I mean, I don't have to agree with what the university is saying. There's lots of things other academics say that I will not agree with, and never will, and I am famous for being a contrarian. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a contrary bastard, and I will get in your face, and I will challenge your ideas. And I don't care who you are, I don't care how full of yourself you are, or what elevated level of the hierarchy you think you've got to. You get in front of me and I disagree with you, I will get in your face. It's as simple as that. You know, and that's what university should be about. If you don't like Milo, what's his name, or Ben Shapiro, or anyone, you know, Tommy Robinson, if you don't like their ideas, argue with them. Tell them you don't like them and tell them why. Let the court of popular opinion judge. But of course, postmodernists know that the court of public opinion is going to throw them out. It's going to say, oh, don't be so stupid. You know, because they can't make an argument. They can't make a convincing argument because they've never been given the tools. So I have to ask myself, why are we paying, A, for the continuance of the departments that are teaching this stuff in an era when funding is scarce? Particularly if, you know, if you're an American, you may not realise that in Europe, although there are tuition fees in certain countries and certain, not in others, you know, it's a bit complicated, it's complicated to see, but generally speaking, there's a large amount of government finance gets poured into universities and institutions of higher education, partly as, you know, running money to run the institution, but also partly in the form of bursaries and loans to the students who go there. So I'm going to say right up front here, I think that we should be defunding a lot of these. These departments have failed. You've got a degree in women's studies, or gender studies, or race inequality, or some utter bullshit like this. What the hell use is it to anyone? And you have never been taught to develop an argument. You've never been taught to actually make a proposition and weigh it up. You know, resourcing and sourcing your information and doing everything properly as you should. You're just not taught how to do it. It's all about how you feel, touchy-feely. It's touchy-feely, touchy-feely. It's, oh, this is what I feel. I don't give a damn what you feel. It's not going to help an employer. So the justification that used to be in place for funding these departments, it's no longer there. You know, people who go to arts degrees, and in a tiny, tiny number of them actually get jobs in that sphere, in that area. These colleges tend to be basically training grounds for new teachers, and the rest of the ones who succeed just go into something else, you know. But the point here is that these degrees are worthless. They don't teach the skills that students need. And one of the reasons they don't teach these skills is because they have allowed this idea of safe spaces, that challenging ideas are not allowed into your little classroom, that you need a comfort zone, that you need furry bunnies and puppies. Like, fuck you do. What you need is to be told that your ideas are crap. Now do better. And if you don't think that your ideas are crap, prove it. That's what should actually happen in university. So I'm saying, well, what justification do we have now for, certainly in a college like Evergreen in the United States, I would just pull the plug on that. I can't imagine why anybody is getting government funding to go to a place like that, and I can't imagine why the structure is getting taxpayers' money in the first place. And I would say exactly the same about significant numbers of academic institutions, not just in the United States, but across the West. The problem is that the American way of doing things, academically speaking, tends to cross the Atlantic. And it's clear to me that the rot of postmodernism is spreading. I think it's infected just about all the humanities departments across the UK now. And the rot will just keep destroying things. It will keep producing people who are useless, who'll never get a job, who just can't do anything. They can't even, compose a rational string of thought, because they've never been given the tools. Because central to postmodernism is the idea that you don't argue because all ideas are valid. So why would you argue? What you have to do with an idea that you don't agree with is close it out, shut the door and say, oh no, ring fence, we can't have you in here because you challenge my safe space. That is not university education, I'm sorry. It just isn't. And we should not be funding it. They should be pulling the plug on this stuff now. And yes, I'm sure a lot of them will be greeting. And I'm sure they'll be running up and down the street smashing things up. Too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. When they're grown up, have learned a little, and are paying taxes themselves, maybe. See you later, folks. Bye.